Hello, family, and welcome to the Good News Feed. I am always in my kitchen because I'm going to feed you the good news. So, before we get into today's episode, I have to share with you my favorite thing to do: repurpose, regrow, and freeze. So, for those of you who do not follow me on social media, please do so you can catch all these hacks. So, I have often found myself wasting money because I would forget my fresh produce is in the refrigerator. So, common sense sometimes isn't so common, but I'm like, this just makes total sense to freeze my produce. So these are green onions that you can continue to regrow. These are actually cut, so you can imagine how long they were. And I just simply repurposed the spaghetti jar, put the roots inside of some water, and now I'm growing another set or another bunch of green onions. So what did I do with the ones that I cut? Put them in the freezer bag, put them in the freezer, and they do keep inside of the freezer. So instead of me feeling bad because they've wilted inside of the refrigerator or they just simply died out, I can preserve them in the freezer. So that's my hack for you. Freeze your produce. I've frozen zucchini, squash, mushrooms, green peppers, and onions all in the same bag because what, baby, I love me a good fajita every now and then. I've even frozen my guacamole after I've made that. So, with that being said, let's get into our episode. We have a wonderful group of people joining us today from the Kennedy Street Freedom School. And there is no better way to introduce this crew than with one of their signature chants. So, let me say, hey, y'all.
All right, everybody. I'm gonna teach you guys a little chant. So when I point to you, I just simply want you to scream, hey, even from your own living rooms, or if you're in your car or at the gym working out, watching this live feed, I want you to feel it in your spirit, okay? Because this is something that we do every day with our children. It's a ritual called Harambe, which is an audio kinesthetic time of people coming together. All right, so let's just try it. All right, team, are you ready?
Yes.
Yep, ready.
Let's try it. This is the way.
Hey.
We start our day.
Hey.
We get the knowledge
Hey.
to go to college.
Hey.
We won't stop there.
Hey.
Go anywhere.
Hey.
We work and smile,
Hey.
because that's our style.
Hey.
This is the way.
Hey.
We start our day,
Hey.
because we don't play.
Hey.
Now what y'all say?
Hey. 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 Hey.
Hey.
The Freedom School is always about energy, and I have loved it since I first heard about it. So joining us today is Brother La'Mont Geddis, Sister Matthews, and Sister Noella Muller. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Freedom schools are what?
Red hot.
Freedom schools are what?
Red hot.
Freedom schools are R-E-D.
With a
A
little bit of
bit of T.
O. C is R-E-D with an H to C. Red hot.
Red hot.
I love it. I wore the right color today.
I figured you were like the red hot one.
I do. Shout out to my sorors of Delta Theta Sorority Incorporated. Yes, Brother La'Mont Geddis. It is always a pleasure.
Thank you.
So tell us about Freedom Schools.
Freedom schools is nothing new. It actually started during the civil rights movement. And you might remember when you hear about the freedom fighters or the freedom riders.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't always a positive point in our history because a lot of people lost their lives because they were freedom riders. Freedom fighters thought it was important that all of our children, especially our black children, and our black children who are a part of the Poor People's Campaign, they were given access to the same type of education as their counterparts. But in addition to making sure that they were literate, they also wanted to make sure that they were fed and that they were happy and that they were engaged and that they knew that those Jim Crow laws no longer existed. And so the freedom fighters had a real strong agenda. And so that's what we are all about several years later. So in the 90s, Marion Wright Edelman with this Children's Defense Fund she recalled all of the freedom fighters, people who were college age, to come out and make a difference in their communities. And I'm really proud to say, and even though it dates me and probably you can see some of the gray hairs on my face, but I was one of those freedom fighters who's right here in Washington, D.C., who answered the call. I just told her, I answered, I said, I want to make a difference. I'm a Howard University student. How can I make a difference? And I worked at my very first Freedom School in 1995, which was when the Freedom Schools was rekindled with the Children's Defense Fund. And there we learned about poverty, but not just poverty when it comes to being poor in money, but we learned about poverty when it comes to emotional poverty, a love poverty, poverties within the families where all family structures were not the same. And thus we started to really understand the American school system and how it is apprised of children that have this type of poverty. And so here we were, young people willing to run against the storm. And we were saying, how can we make a difference with our youth? And so back in 1995, we went and knocked on doors and we gathered the youth in Columbia Heights, and they became a part of our own Freedom School. And then we were very civic minded. Back then, I remember the big issue for us was gun control in Washington, D.C. And we wanted to take guns off the streets because they were killing our young Black men in masses, which is still a problem. And then I remember it was our youth in Columbia Heights in 1995. They said, well, let's give out books for everybody who's willing to turn in a gun. And so we had to make it safe because it's like turning a gun, who are we? We're young folks, we don't want to get anybody shot. Now we're in territories, but our young people drew signs, and then we drew a partnership with the police saying that there was an amnesty. Anybody turning a gun, there would be no questions asked. A funeral parlor gave a casket, a fake casket that we was able to do symbolism to put all of those guns in the funeral casket. And then we were able to give out books to the entire community who supported the initiative. Those are the civic-minded activities that Freedom Schools are about. But it's a literacy-based curriculum, and I dare say that it's culturally relevant because all of our Black and brown babies read these books that are full of characters that look just like them, that are going through problems and stories just like they do, and they're able to see themselves as the heroes. They're able to see themselves as the heroine for once. And when I read those books, sometimes I can say, and I know the author, and that makes me feel really good and really proud. So now here we are in Freedom Schools, 20-something years later, and I'm the director of 2 Freedom Schools with the National Center for Children and Families. And our Freedom Schools are really special here in DC because not only do we serve the youth, we serve a very vulnerable population. We serve homeless youth. But I would like to now just bring in Treyana, because Treyana means a lot to our Freedom School program. Because Treyana, you were what? The first what? Of Kennedy Street Freedom School? Tell the story, Treyana.
Female to be staffed at the Kennedy Street Freedom School. Yes, the first ever staff of the Kennedy Street Freedom School, the first ever female.
So tell us your story and about Freedom School and your link to education, because it led it was the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, Treyana.
Yeah. Yes. So I have a friend that was working in the Freedom School. She had been in Freedom School for about a year. And after her year was up, she then told me, Trey, you got to get in on this movement. This is something that I know that you'll be great at, so do this. And, let me know if you hear anything back. So I heard back, did my interview, and was still kind of unsure about, what I had to offer to these kids. I had never been in education before. I was kind of just doing my own thing, wasn't really looking to do anything permanent. But it wasn't until I started to form a Mr. Geddis, and he kind of just handed me the reins, I guess you could say, and just trusted in me. He saw something in me that kind of just, just allowed me to move forward in with the Freedom School. And these past 2 years have been stretching for me. It's been I've grown a lot. Freedom School has taught me a lot, even though our position requires us to teach. It's also taught me a whole lot about my history, my heritage, and what I really want out of my life personally, my career. It just really put me on the path to what I know I'm supposed to be doing in this life. So, yeah.
So we use the word the first female. You're a pioneer as a leader in a time where things are still very sensitive with regard to women in the workforce. But I think there's a lot to be said about you being the first, even in when did you start? 2 years ago, so 2018?
2018, yes.
The word, I was the pioneer, I was the first. Like, what does that really mean to you?
That means everything to me. Honestly, I didn't really even notice it until I would say maybe until last summer, because I started 2 school years ago. So I started the 2018-2019 school year in Freedom School. So I didn't really pay too much attention to it until last summer, when I really went off to the national training at the Alex Haley farm and all of that. You know, I don't really know what that alone held, you know, that power alone held. But I could see myself from 10 years from now, you know, still being acknowledged as the first female. You know what I'm saying? You know, and just that alone makes me excited, you know, because it is a big thing. And yeah, it's great.
Mr. Geddis calls you all the boots on the ground. Both you, Trayana, and Noella are servant leader interns. And so, Noella, let's hear from you about your experience with Freedom School.
So, I started Freedom Schools last year with Trayana. So that was my first year going to Tennessee and all of that. And the minute I stepped foot in Tennessee, it was so different. Like, you could just feel the power in the room. But let me backtrack to just the plane ride. I don't like getting on planes. And then I'm like, I'm about to be with all these girls that I don't know, because we were all female staff. So it just so happened that I knew one of the girls by face because she's friends with another friend of mine. And we got on that plane. I said, yes, sis, I'm gonna have to hold your hand. And she was like, huh? I was like, yeah, I know we don't know each other, but here we are. So we held hands literally for the first maybe 30 minutes of the ride. And then when we got to Tennessee, it was just like a breath of fresh air. And Trey wasn't there yet. And it was so funny because something had happened with her flight. But mind you, it's these women that we don't know, but we got together. We made up a chant for her. So when she came at night, we just went and welcomed her outside off of the bus with a chant. And at that very moment, like, I knew that these are some people that I wanted to build and grow with, and that Freedom School is so much more than just Freedom School. Like, it has the ability to offer friendship, mentoring, empowerment, and all that other good stuff. And like Trey said, while we are the teachers, we're also learning. We're learning from our supervisors. We're even learning from the children. And that right there means so much to me. So this is year 2, and I'm excited. Although it's virtually, I feel like Trey and I do a great job with level 2, and we're amazing teachers. So shout out to Trey, and shout out to Mr. Geddis for always believing in us. Thank you.
I love it. You ladies really, really are, as they said, I believe the children are the future. That, like, you're that future, training another set of children so that it is cyclical. I love that this ability is reactivated. So, Ms. Geddis, I want to go back to you. That visual that you provided with the coffins. So I want to make sure I'm correct. So the coffins were filled with books? Were they filled with books?
We actually put the guns that were donated, that people brought in from the community, in the coffin to symbolize us burying the guns in the community. And so people brought in BB guns, they brought in water guns, they brought in all types of guns. And if any real guns were brought in, the police were there to take care of it. So it was a community effort. But please, let me forward you to something that you're noticing with the Freedom Schools. The one thing that Freedom Schools are, it's a movement. It's a national movement full of people who believe in themselves and love in themselves and believe in teaching our children. Those young ladies are part of this grand movement, and they are now passing the torches on to the youth, even beneath them. You, Miss Body, are a part of the movement. I am a part of the movement. There are several generations of educators here, and I have been lucky enough to teach with all of you. So I even feel the intergenerational power that comes with this type of movement when people of like minds come together. And that's what freedom schools are all about. The Harambe spirit, people coming together.
And I do love that. I am so glad that freedom schools were reactivated and are here to stay. We need that in our communities. So we have, let's shift the conversation a little bit to what's happening in 2020. Black Lives Matter, the protests, the movements. There's this big push for our Black and brown children to continuously read and see those images in there. What has been your experience? Any of you can answer this. What has been your experience as the country, as the country is hemorrhaging, bandages are off? What has been your response, or what have you seen that has helped to push, I don't even want to say the agenda, but the ultimate permanent change for our community to stop being killed economically, emotionally, physically, so that we can not just be at the table, but the creators of all the policies at the table, and so that my 4-year-old can not be afraid to play in his yard.
One of the things that we are doing with Freedom Schools, we've been doing a Harambe down at the National Mall as a way of bringing people together, using that power that the lady spoke about that they felt in Tennessee, bringing that power down to heal the country. Harambe means people coming together, and we come together in the name of our children. Now, we know that based on history, especially America's ugly history, in highlighting the civil rights movement, when people had cigarettes put out on their foreheads and coffee poured on top of them, and people were lynched, and strange fruit was common. Like this plagues our history. This is nothing new. This brutality, the devaluing of Black lives.
Yeah.
But we know that civil distress is the only thing that really brings change. When the country is fed up and saying that we will not tolerate this, which is what you see now. But that doesn't mean that we need to die. It doesn't mean that we need to put our children at the forefront. So let's put something that we all have in common at the forefront, which is our youth. Let's focus on them. Let's focus on making tomorrow better for them, because the cops that kill these other Black and brown people, they should just be arrested. I don't know if defunding the police is the right answer, because if anything happens to my own family, I call 911.
Yeah, still.
I know that I have frat brothers, and I have college friends, and I have personal friends of mine who are the police. I don't think that defunding the police is the necessary answer. However, I do think that if we all took all of our common attention and focus on our youth and how we can make the police better tomorrow, how we can change this policy, I think that would be bigger gains. But this movement is not through just the lens of my eye. I've realized this movement has morphed several times, because even the people the age of my own son, who's 26-year-old, who he has his own thoughts of how he can make a difference. But I'm here with others who are his age, who are who I call boots to the ground. So I would like to hear from Noella and Trey and let them answer the same question, because this is now the reins being handed over. And now I'm really trusting that they're going to lead, and they have some outstanding things planned for our youth. And they can tell you about a mentoring program and some other things that I was just blessed to be a part of the conversation.
Okay, let's do it, ladies. You're the leaders.
All right. So when it comes to Black Lives Matter, it's very unfortunate that we're still dealing with this right now. But like Mr. Geddis said, just finding something that we have in common, which is our youth. Like having that Harambe in DC meant so much to me. And it was so interesting to see like the different shades of Black people, the people that are mixed with Black, and they all want to fight for the same thing, which is justice. However, with all the politics that we have going on and people don't see the wrongs or the rights that they're doing, it's very hard. So during the Harambe, it was amazing because we were able to teach cheers and chants, and then we also gave out a lot of books to children that were gathered around. So that really warmed my heart. But also, Trey and I, on our own personal Instagrams, we constantly keep our peers educated, which is another way of making sure that everyone stays in tune and actually knows what is happening. Trey and I were also together in a group that I started with my friends called the Butterfly Effect, which focuses on healing, forgiveness, emotional trauma, and things of that nature. So we spent a 7-day week to be intentional about our self-care and self-love. And one of the things that were very helpful for all of us was confronting our negativity on paper. We were able to say, well, I'm a Black woman and I'm terrified to walk outside. I'm a Black woman and I'm scared to walk outside at night to maybe go get some food, because you never know what might happen. But also during those 7 days, I feel like we also bonded so well that if they felt like they needed an assistant to ride with them, or if they needed an assistant to pour into them, they have that ability to do so. So besides, having that Harambe in DC, but also ensuring that we're teaching people our age that don't know what's going on, making sure that they're staying educated and pouring that love into others so that we are able to, make the world a better place, no matter how hard it is.
I honestly, I was avoiding this question a little bit, but I'm going to answer because I feel that it's important for me to answer. With everything going on in our world today, I have felt I've been everywhere across the emotional board.
That's fair.
I've been hopeful, I've been enraged, I've been terrified, I've been in despair. Just thinking, coming from a family, I grew up in a 2-parent home. My father was always present. I'm very close with all of my siblings. I have 7 brothers and sisters, 4 of which are brothers. So just the thought of, them being stopped by a cop, or them just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, like it really, I would say maybe about a month and a half ago, I was really just in a place emotionally where I didn't think I would get out, to be honest. And the butterfly effect that Noella spoke about came right on time for me. Your mental health dictates, things that happen in the natural. So whatever you manifest in your mind first, you will manifest in the natural. So when I caught that, it was imperative for us to come together and to focus on mental health, self-love, self-care, what that looks like for the next generation, because that wasn't really a goal when we were younger. You know what I'm saying? So when if it starts in the mind, it'll just, everything else will follow through. And that's what I've really been standing on for the last couple of months. So with Queen to Princess, the program, yes, the program that we're starting up, and this Tea Time with the Queens, this session is really focused on building that mental stability at the young age. Like, you don't have to wait until you become a full-grown woman. You don't have to wait until you get into college. It starts now, because whether those young girls know it or not, that trauma that they're experiencing is impacting them. And it will continue to impact them if they don't, get it in check. So that's been my main focus, just focusing on emotional health, mental health during this time, because it's all this hatred and the fighting and the rioting, it stems from your mind, So, if we can get that in check, we'll be unstoppable. And I really do believe that.
So you brought up Tea Time. That was going to be my next question. I know Tea Time is coming up, and I wanted you to share, any of you, Trayana, Noella, or Mr. Geddis, please tell us about Tea Time.
Okay, so Tea Time is an event that stems from our new mentoring program, Queen to Princess. And during Tea Time, we're going to have some phenomenal speakers. They're going to be talking about self-care, empowerment, and loving who you are. this really just came about by a task that Mr. Geddis and Mr. Emmanuel gave to Trayana and I. And then after that, things just went up. Like, it was just amazing to see how something so small within a group can expand to something so big and powerful. So Tea Time with the Queens is basically where we're going to be able to create a bond with young girls in our community in order to teach them to love themselves, stand up for themselves, and advocate for others. So we have to teach our princesses to be queens. And Trey and I, we often call ourselves queens because that's exactly just who we are. So that name fits perfectly. So also during that time, we're going to be allowing them to express their emotions, you know, allowing them to really talk about what's been going on in their life. What are some things that they need help with to matriculate throughout life? You know, all of us aren't blessed to have siblings, and some of us aren't blessed to have the greatest parents, but I really think it takes a village to raise a child. So that's exactly what this mentoring group is for, to help raise the next best of the best in DC and Maryland.
So now I understand where it's from. The queens are going to give to the princesses. Because I was like, wait a minute, don't you have to be a princess first before you're a queen? I get it. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
The foundation of, or the purpose for the Tea Time. So
Miss Body.
So
I have to stop you because that was the same thing that I said. And that is because we have these older eyes. And I said, let me stop. There can't be adultism where the adults are saying what it should be. Let's listen. And that was one of the things that I honestly had to do with the young. And I was like, wait a second, shouldn't it be? And I remember going through this with them, and they sat me down. But this is a new way. You know, virtually is a new way. We have to stop. The way that we learned it, there's something new that's happening here. And we have to either, you know, adjust, assimilate, or learn a new way, or get out the way. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so
I backed up. I said, I'm going to listen so I can learn.
Always think of it as us, the mentors, passing the crown.
Yeah,
we're just passing what we learned from life. We're passing the good that came out of our lives, and we're letting them know, like, we're going to be real with you all, but we're also going to hold your hand as you go through this thing called life. It's a journey. It's a journey, and we'll be there for them.
So we're going to give you the tea at the tea.
Period.
Period. Because you got to do that movement right there.
Period. Well, actually, try this way. Do period.
Oh,
period. There you go. See?
What? 2 years behind? Period.
Yeah.
Yep.
I always tell people when they hear queen to princess, just think of a ripple effect. Like, we are the queens now, and we will pass and pour into the princesses. When they become queens, they will then pass and pour into the next generation of princesses. And this is our envision for this program. It won't just stop in 2020. You know what I'm saying? It won't just, we want it to be a ripple effect. We want it to be from generation to generation to generation.
I'm here for it. Yeah. I'm here for it. I am here for it. So we're going to close out in a moment, but I do want you guys to give the audience an opportunity to know how they can help out the Freedom School.
Absolutely. So, was somebody else talking? Okay. So in Harambe, we do many things, but one of the things that we do is a read aloud. So we have read aloud guests every single day. They are our friends, our supervisors, our family members. But one way to be a read aloud guest for the Kennedy Sterling Freedom School, you all can email me. My name is noella.muller@gmail.com. That is my email. And basically what you would do is tell me what day you would like to read. We start at 9 a.m. and then you're able to read whatever book you want to read. However, we hope that the book that they choose is able to uplift the people of color, you know, really speak something into our children, because we are intentional about all that we do in Harambe. And yeah, so that is one way to pour into the youth. Be a read aloud guest. You read, they ask you a couple of questions, and then we move on from there. So that's basically just showing them, like, there's all types of different people in the world, and they can still educate you, even if they don't look exactly like you, but they're still able to give you some type of knowledge.
And there are also other ways that you can volunteer. Like, we have a young lady, she is in high school, and she's all about civic engagement. And she volunteers weekly, and she does a voters, like a Rock the Vote workshop with the kids, and really just telling them how important it is to vote. And even at the young age of, I guess, 6 on up to 17, not being at the age where you can actually vote, she's letting our children know what they can do to vote. And that's powerful. She's empowering them, and she's only in high school herself. She's volunteering. It's just something she does at the kindness of her heart. So if there are any other people out there who want to do a powerful or inspiring workshop with our youth, we would welcome that opportunity. And they can definitely also contact me, and I'll give you my email address as well. My email address is lgeddis@nccf-cares.org. And I'll give that again for you. That's lgeddis, GEDDIS, @nccf-cares.org. National Center for Children and Families -cares.org. Please email me, because there are a number of opportunities and things that you can do virtually. We like to say our real heroes don't always wear capes. You can sit in front of your computer. I can even tell them, if I can, Ms. Body, it's a surprise, but we're having an upcoming college and career day, a virtual college and career day. And we reached out specifically to our Black excellence, our Divine Nine, asking Greeks to tell their story, or why did they pledge their organizations, or why did they choose their colleges, and using their own sources of inspiration to inspire our youth. And Ms. Body, you decided to answer the call of being one of the fantastic ladies of Delta Sigma Theta. And when we share that with our youth, I'm pretty sure that it's going to have everlasting effects. Because remember, at one point, it was like a secret. Like, I didn't have any Greeks step up to the front and say, I'm an Omega man, and this is what we do. But we now have that opportunity, and it is now our responsibility. Yeah. And we can do it virtually. So why not do it virtually? Why not inspire a child to go to Howard University or Hampton? Or Morgan, or Bowie, or UDC, or any of the colleges. Why not encourage them? Yeah. So put on your cape, or take off your cape, or however. Just know that you can be a hero right in your own living room by either doing a workshop or just talking to our kids about why you went to your college or why you chose your profession. The one common theme for our virtual Freedom School is I can make a difference. And we constantly empower our children to show them how you make a difference and how they'll be able to make a difference.
I love it. So we are at the end. I'm going to sum up what I believe I heard from you all. I have a couple of nuggets here. And I have the village has been reactivated and is planning to stay. We need to educate our children. And the one thing that we have in common is our children. Forward movement requires healing emotionally as well as physically. And last but not least, forward movement is intentional. Period. Period. So any last words to sum up Freedom School and anything you want people to know? Let me try that again. Are there any last words from either of you before we close out today?
One thing that comes to mind when I think of Freedom School, there's a song that was played repeatedly throughout the national training at Freedom School. It's called Ella Song, and it's basically based off of Ella Baker's why she was who she was, why she advocated for the youth, why she went so hard to educate the children. And one quote in the song is, "Until the killing of Black men is as important as the killing of white men, we who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes." So when you think of freedom, when I think of Freedom School, that's what that song just comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Noella?
All right. So all I keep hearing is this is our time. This is our time to move forward. this is our time to pour into one another, but most importantly, this is our time to appreciate who we be. I have a professor, we go head and head every day in class, but one day she just told me, like, I appreciate who you be, and that really took me to another mindset. Like, not who you're becoming, not who you were, not what you can do, but who you be, who you truly are. And I think that's so imperative that we remember. When you hear Freedom School, you're going to come in contact with people that know who they be, with people who know what they can do in this world, and that's exactly what they're going to do with no limits. Be who they were called to be. So thank you.
You do know how to pick up La'Mont Geddis. These are some powerful women.
You should know that, Miss Body, because you were one of my picks as well. Let them know I was your principal for a year too. We all sit at Maya Angelou, which is where I was blessed to have met you.
Thank you. I knew where I was going the moment I did my sample teaching. I said, oh no, I have to be a part of this. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of an extension of the Freedom School.
And I just must say that has been my gift of discernment, where that God gives me his babies to serve and work with and protect. And I have to help find those people who are willing to sow into them. And you have been one of the people I've met along the way that have been doing a fantastic, and still are.
Oh, thank you.
And now these ladies are coming up right there. They're powerful. They have a mentoring group, and they're talking about the youth behind them, which is the conversation that needs to be had. That's the real red table conversation we need to be had. Not entanglement. Hello.
Come on.
Real talk.
Well, let me stop preaching. But for real, I'm just glad to be at the table with you all.
I'm going to be a little greedy and ask for one more chance.
Okay.
Can you give the people one more?
Come for it, y'all. What we going to do?
Can we do my favorite chant? Tribe.
Okay.
Yeah, a tribe really makes me like, oh yes, we are together. We are one. Let's do it.
Yes.
Are y'all ready?
We ready.
Tell me what you feel like doing, y'all.
I feel like hanging with my tribe.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Let me put some freedom in it.